everybody, welcome to Wine Library TV. I'm your host, Gary Vaynerchuk, and this is Wine Library TV. So today we're going to be talking about Chardonnay. As it's getting warmer, I'm thinking and focusing more on white wines all the time. I think it's time to revisit Chardonnay. I think sometimes maybe I've come off as a negative guy when it comes to California Chardonnay, and so today we're going to be talking about 4 different California Chardonnays, all in that $20 to $25 price range, which I would call a special bottle of wine. Meaning it's a little more expensive, but one that you would definitely pop for a Friday or Saturday night dinner. Hopefully, if you can afford to. And so, more importantly, I think that they are really important wines in the marketplace. California Chardonnays represent the single most sold item at Wine Library as a category. So we're talking about something that people continuously drink, and at the end of the day, I couldn't refuse all the emails that I get for requests for doing Chardonnays. So let's do that. Also, just to give a big shout out, and mainly because I'm looking for as many comments as possible, because I'll have some time tonight to count and read them all. I'm hoping that you guys can pick my show. So one wine, only one. Pick one wine that you would like me to taste on tomorrow's show, and this way I can make 4 Vayniacs happy, not just one. Pretty smart, right? You like that? I want to, before we start, give a huge shout out and a welcome to Sean Figgins, Major League Baseball player for the Angels of Anaheim, Los Angeles, California, America, whatever they call themselves today. Welcome to my team. I made a big trade for you yesterday. I know you're coming off the DL on Monday, and I'm going to need all of your little speedy legs, because I need speed. I need speed. So I need some steals. Sean Figgins, welcome. I know you're watching. Give me a zap. We'll talk about it. All right. Let's get right into the wine, because that's why you're watching. And let's do it. Let's go right with Landmark 2005 Overlook Chardonnay, which is 90 points Wine Spectator, $20 US. 74% of the grapes come from Sonoma County. Some of it actually, about 16% comes from Santa Barbara County, and 10% Monterey County. So they do purchase their grapes at Landmark. This is the Overlook, a long traditioned Chardonnay of great stature. Actually, our biggest selling item right now at Wine Library in the $20 white range. So 90 point Spectator, 20 bones, really strong suit for Chardonnay here at the store. So it makes a lot of sense. Huge pedigree, long time. I mean, we're talking 7, 8, 9 years now of 90 point consistent scores, and kudos to Landmark. Because when I first got into the business, many moons ago, this one was $15, $16, $14. So they have not gone up a lot in price at all, and that's a nice thing. 14.3% alcohol content, extremely golden in its color. Let's give it a whirl. Very, very oaky on the nose. Little hints of butter. I'm also really enjoying, though, the sliced fresh green apple that I'm getting a little bit of nose, but it's very coated with a good solid dose of oak and butter. A whole lot. Really, really strong finish, actually. Very complex and tight. Great acidity. I taste an enormous amount of oak on this wine, which is not a bad thing. A lot of people like oak, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this is a very oaky, buttery aspect, no question. Enormous amount of residual popcorn at the movie theater flavor coming through in my mouth. I mean, it kind of reminds me of when I went to Forrest Gump. Had no idea what that movie was about. Saw it on opening day, and still feel that flavor in my mouth. Got out, called my mom, said, "Mom, Academy Award winner." I predicted it. Anyway, very oaked. You have to know what you're getting yourself into on this wine. It has some complexity. It has some richness. I'm going to score this wine 87 points because for me, there's too much oak, but I can see a lot of people liking this wine. It is well made. It's definitely structured. There is a good sense of apple, green apple here that kind of offsets it from just being an oak and buttered monster. But I'm going to give it 87 points. And, for me, it's not my total cup of style, but if you're a big California Chardonnay fan, and you're drinking things like Hess or Simi or Benzinger or Franciscan, and you want to go up a couple bucks, I think you're going to experience a far better quality made wine. Let's move on. Now this is the Pisano. Wow, this is heavy. Also a big punt. Big punts coming into WLTV lately. This is the Pisano 2005 Sleepy Hollow Vineyard Chardonnay. $25 US, and no rating. Now, we did the 2004, I believe, on Wine Library TV a long time ago, and I'm a pretty big fan of Pisano. I think they've been really bringing the thunder lately. I did drink some of their Pinot Noirs the other day for consideration in the store, and I did not love them. So keep that in mind. I kind of passed on those. But the 04 was spectacular. The 05 is a recent wine for us. We just got it in. I am dying to try this. So let's give it a whirl. Again, it's got a little spritzy action going on. I don't know if it's coming through on the camera, but again, sometimes you see that with a very young wine. It's coming through a little of that spritz factor, which, you know, spritz never hurt anybody. A little mist in a summer day never bothered anybody. I'm sure you guys all do that. You have your little mist container with you when you walk around. So now, see, this is very interesting. This is a little bit different. This has almost like a you know, like the pies they use in the movies, and they're like, oh, I got hit in the face with pie, but really it's just like a whipped cream kind of thing. It's probably shaving cream, but whatever it is, I get very much a cream pie aspect on this nose. Very subtle hint of almond shell, which is quite intriguing and well integrated in this wine. I also am getting some oak, but it's very subtle, and this is making me feel that it's being used properly. Now, this comes from the Sleepy Hollow Vineyard, which, amongst others, Talbot made very famous, and the quality of the Chardonnay that comes out of this vineyard is extraordinary and should be seeked out. If you've never had a Sleepy Hollow Chard, I highly recommend you do so. Same thing I saw in 04 in this 05. The Pisano is doing a great job balancing itself on the nose. And to me, the bouquet is so important. It's such a process to me in the wine drinking experience. I mean, almost always, before I sip a wine, I give it a real good smell on the way down. This also has a very intriguing and obvious canned corn aspect on the nose, which I like quite a bit. I'm a big fan of the Jolly Green Giant like anybody else. He's green. And he's a giant. He should be like really big here in the New York metro area. I definitely get that a little sense when I'm about to bring it down. It's quite obvious too. Let's give it a whirl. This wine's bringing the thunder. This wine is bringing the thunder. This is how it should be done. Wow. Off memory, I think this is a better version of the 04. This has tremendous amounts of different layers going on. And it does have butter and oak. And there is the oak monster. But sometimes you can tame them. Oak monsters, stay chill, relax. Come with me. Hold my hand. Let's be together as one. That's what this wine is doing. Unlike the other ones where the oak monster takes control and grabs you and eats you. I don't want to be eaten. I want to enjoy and hold hands with the oak monster. And that's what I can do with this Pisano. I really like the corn aspect. I'm getting that again in the flavor. There's a little wheatness going on. Walnuts, almonds, very nutty. But there is buttered popcorn, but subtle. I'm also getting a very intriguing apricot aspect on the mid-palate. And finishing off with pears and apples in a little like juggling aspect, like one pear, one apple. It's a lot of fun. And it's very long and very complex. The exact kind of wine that me on a big fish kick these days would absolutely adore with salmon, with grouper, with fluke. I mean, this is what I need. This is what I'm looking for. And this really has the complexity and the balance of the structure that so many people don't want to admit that California Chardonnays have and feel that they have to go to Burgundy and drop 60 bones on. I'm telling you right now, this is a complete winner. These guys are really impressing me. I was dumbfounded, stunned, shocked, and appalled to find their Pinot Noirs to be underwhelming the last time I had them. Because this is now the second white wine I've had from them. Just such a cleanness to this wine. Little heat and acidity on the finish. You're gonna feel it. But I think that can go away in 6 months because it's a very young wine. I think that's a component of it. I'm going to score this wine. I'm going to score this wine 91 plus points. I'm really feeling it. It's an exceptional bottle of wine and well worth the 25 bones that it is, especially in the price category of California Chardonnays these days. Great job. Let's move on. Another really, really good producer that I've had a lot of success with. This is the Keller 2004 Chardonnay. I have not had this. I've had the 03 and loved. 90 points Wine Spectator. 24 US dollars. 24 bones. Huge shout out to Freeman McNeil, number 24, best ever. Let's give it a whirl. Let's see what the Keller's bringing to the table. Again, 90 points. What I like about the Keller wines is that I've always find them to be very strong, well-made, structured. This is from Sonoma Coast. Really interesting producer, good people. Nice color again. Lots of gold coming through. I mean, we're talking real gold. I'm like the locks on Ric Flair's hair on these wines for sure. Very weird nose. What the? Not often for a loss of words, but where I'm going to go with this on the nose is there is a melted butter aspect on this, almost kind of like over pancakes that also happen to have like your dirty Vaynerchuk wristband on it after a 4-hour workout. There is that little stinky component, that little sweat sock component. There's clearly butter, once again, a very common thing on Chardonnays from California. And there is a hint of oak for sure. Let's give it a whirl. Weird nose. Hooyah. Zing zang. Very awkward acidity blast on the mid palate. Very disjointed. Wow, hold on one second. Sometimes I do this. This is something you can try at home when you're intrigued with wine. I tend to bite my wines. I actually put it in my palate and kind of go through the process of like eating the wine. I find that sometimes it helps me pick out characteristics. Because don't forget, all these wines, when I use descriptions and analogies and all that, we're talking about very subtle flavors. Flavors that took me about 3 or 4 years before I even realized, I remember the first time I got chocolate. That was huge for me. But, there's subtle flavors, and sometimes that component helps me. So try that out sometimes. It's a lot of fun. Plus, everybody in your crowd would love to see you doing it. This wine is completely lost. I mean, like it's 9:07 and the bell rang 7 minutes ago, and it's your first day in school in a 48,000 square foot school with nobody ever interested in helping you find your room, with no numbers on the doors. I mean, that's how lost this wine is. Completely all over the place. I get some oak. I do get a little bit of cantaloupe on this wine, cantaloupe rind actually. Some dirty leaves, some sweaty sock components. Very disjointed. It feels light to me. It's got a hollow palate. I'm going to go 80 points in this wine. I'm way off with the Wine Spectator. I mean, this is when, people get really upset and buy a 90-point wine, and they're like, what the heck did I just buy? Because this to me cannot be anywhere close to that. I'm going 80 points. We're going to have to give this a Wayne Corbett, no doubt. Jerry Rice, if you like that guy. But 80 points. This is a complete pass. Throw up 40 Z's. Let's go pass, zazz. Keep going, because this is a complete nightmare. Freddy Krueger style in this one. Let's move on. You know what? Let's give that 78 points. I was being too nice. This is just a mess. Let's move on. Really shocked, actually, considering the 03 I thought was a very good wine. 2005 ZD Chardonnay, 26 US dollars, and really one of the great California producers of Chardonnay. Always been a very important Chardonnay for the wine library. From Napa Valley, very much sought after, very big selling item for us, 26 bones. So I'm excited to try this. I've actually not had a ZD Chardonnay in a long time. I remember maybe back in 2001 to 1999, I used to drink ZD quite a bit. I was in my big Chardonnay phase back then, and I've always found him to be a very reputable, extremely strong producer. Now this is probably the lightest color of the bunch, if I really think back. Absolutely, lightest color, no doubt. Let's give it a whirl. This has a very intriguing little nose. There's definitely a hint of oak. There's a lot of maple and cedar, not cedar, like a maple tree aspect going on here. Very interesting. Little candy, almost like a candied Yeah, almost like, do you remember that candy that came out that had like the faces on it, and it was like apple, but it was like soda, or like a container. It was like apple juice. You'd open it, it'd be little pellets. They looked like nerds, but they were bigger. There was grape and orange, and then there was apple. I don't remember what they were called, but it kind of reminds me of that candy quite a bit of nose. So I'm getting like a fake apple sugar candy nose on it, mixed in with quite a bit of like a maple and like an oak aspect to it. Weird. Let's give it a whirl. Definitely not over oaked. Very subtle flavors, but light and one dimensional, and a little disjointed as well. Not what I expected from this producer either. A little bit lighter than I expected. Definitely a little bit dirtier. Not as clean. Just not a clean effort. There's acidity bouncing around. Some greenness. I almost taste like fresh green leaves aspect, which is fine. Just not my cup of tea. And definitely not like Chablis crisp or any stone. Just kind of like blah. Just kind of like good old average Joe. You know, let's give this wine 84 points. Again, not a huge inspiring effort. What I will tell you is that this was a really intriguing tasting because, you know, we always talk about the oak monster, and I always think about California Chards this way, but maybe there is a trend that's changing because really none of these got completely crazy. I guess the Landmark probably had the most oak of the bunch. And true, it did feel like, you know, Hacksaw Jim Duggan was slamming me in my face with his 2x4 when I tasted it. But also toned down, almost like when I was unconscious, Hacksaw threw a couple apples in my mouth. You know, not the most obnoxious, and definitely not what I saw consistently 4 or 5 years ago. So I do think that California might be going through a transition. Now, my concern is that what I tasted at a ZD and Keller is a transition where they take away that, which is at least the one glowing characteristic it had, and it leaves it with much to do with nothing else. I mean, really, really poor single focused efforts. Really, there's just not a lot going on in these wines, and that single focus is, you know, so I'm not really feeling that. So gosh, as much as I talk about the oak monster, maybe the oak monster is a little bit more of California's friend than I thought. Very eye-opening tasting for me. I think you can see I'm a little bit caught off guard. Very, 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 very interesting. Talking about a lot of flavors today, and so I'm going to talk to you about this as the question of the day. What is your single favorite flavor in a wine? The one flavor, the one component flavor that you love more than anything. Blackberry, raspberry, oak, vanilla, creamsicles, you know, Skittles, whatever is yours, I'd really like to hear. And don't forget, help me do tomorrow's show. Put in a link, don't put a name. Go to winelibrary.com, control copy the link, and paste it in there. Save me a lot of time tomorrow. You know, because we're really a team, remember? Because you, a little bit of me, we're changing the wine world, aren't we?